Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Quarter 4 Package Portal AMA. Today, we're going to be providing an update on Package Portal as it concludes its summer shipments rewards, prepares to travel across the Zilliqa bridge, moves into version 2 of the application, and has a growing list of friendly faces within the ecosystem. After these updates, we'll move into community questions. Feel free to ask your questions directly in the YouTube chat at that time or on Twitter using the hashtag PortAMA. Again, the hashtag PortAMA. I'm your host, Chase Raz. Joining me now are the founders of Package Portal, JG Whitley, the CEO, and Gabriel Cheney, the CTO. Now, before I welcome you, gentlemen, let me announce that this AMA is directed by Sam Zillbillionaire as he goes online. Hi, Sam. Where are you? Where's our director?
Yeah,
Hi,
I'm
Sam.
here.
Thanks for doing this behind the scenes. You are a wonderful director making this all work, hanging out in the Netherlands. And our YouTube moderator is Danish. So, Danish, thank you so much. As I said before, may the strength of a million internet warriors be with you. Sam, let's put the focus on JG and Gabe, and here we go, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
JG, Gabe, hi. How are you guys doing today?
Really, really well. How are you?
Well, first of all, I like that there are two reallys in there, really and really well.
Really,
Gabe, what
really
about you?
very extremely well.
Really, very extremely. Gabe, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for inviting me to your AMA quarter 4 here in 2021. Let's begin at the very beginning and say that something has already happened. And I think everybody knows about this or should know about this, but KYC has launched within the Package Portal application. How is that process going?
It's going really good. We've got nearly about 2,000 KYC verified users. That's maybe 1/10 of our token holders based off on-chain analytics. However, we know that there's a big DeFi population. Everybody doesn't want to do KYC, and everybody's not earning tokens. Many of them are just buying the tokens to LP or stake or do whatever they would like, degen off into the DeFi protocols. But KYC is going really good. It's stopped a lot of the attacks, and we were able to identify a bunch of hackers who are not as smart as they appear. They just keep KYCing and proving who they are. So we've got record books on anybody who's trying to defraud the system, and that's helpful just for the integrity of the platform moving forward as we go into merchant service provision and that sort of thing. It's confidence inspiring to our partners.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that some of the folks who were hacking and whatnot were outing themselves through KYC. So you said about 1/10 of the way through right now, right?
Well, 1/10, about 10% of our total token holder, which is about 23,000, is roughly represented by how many have KYC'd.
Great. So any more updates about KYC, or do we want to move straight on to version 2 of Package Portal and talk about that a little bit?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So Sam, if you could, I believe, do we have something, JG, that you want to announce?
Yeah, well, we've got a prototype video. It's a demonstration of the app, what it looks like, how it will function. 99% of what you will see is going to be released in V2 in the coming weeks. November is our target. There's 1 or 2 features we can discuss afterwards after you've seen it that we're going to hold off and take a little bit more development time, but it's minimal. Most of what you're going to see is going to be live very, very soon, and that's why I'm really very extremely excited.
All right, let's see if that's queued up and if we could roll it now. Sam?
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm going to give you a round of applause here. I know it sounds much worse, but I will guarantee you it sounds bad when only one person is applauding. But I guarantee you there are other people watching on the live stream helping me round that applause out. That looks amazing. So let me start at the beginning. When are we going to be seeing this version 2 coming? When is it going to be launching?
Well, we're hoping we can launch, end of November or December. But right now we're working as fast as we can. I think the thing I want to emphasize is that, and I think the video demonstrated, is that everything is changing in the app. So every nook and cranny is getting redone, and we've those screens were created by an amazing design team that we've been able to work with, and they're moving fast, and we're implementing those screens. So that's our hope, but it definitely will come in Q4 for sure. And like I said, it's every nook and cranny is being redone, and it's going to look awesome. So.
Yeah, we're really only a couple of weeks away. We don't want to lock in any time frames because
Right.
There's a lot behind the scenes. All of the back end stuff is done. It's really just marrying up what these guys have done since going full time months ago, about 4 or 5 months ago, and now marrying that up with the screens that our new design firm Wonder has created. They've done an excellent job. The team over there is super creative, and you can see. I mean, it is looking pretty sleek, right?
Yeah.
This is the app that we had wanted to build initially. But nights and weekends, limited time, limited energy, and tooling. Really, now that the bridge is going live and lots of things are opening up, we are ready to start hammering out the pavement.
Yep.
Well, it looked really, really good. Not only the screens, right, that you all have been working on, your design team, but also the production of the teaser looked great itself. So congratulations everywhere around. Gabe, if I can turn to you for just a moment, can you talk about any of the new features that you've been building in, or are those still under wraps until product launch, or what can you give us now?
Yeah, so I'll just talk to some of the features that are slightly new, besides the new look and feel, obviously. But so there is going to be some more tracking, what I call the tracking experience. So the app is focused really on that, proof of receipts, where you are giving that feedback to the merchant that you've actually received the physical product. But it's really cool to be able to know when it's been delivered and those kinds of things, some status updates, and probably a lot of us have used other apps that have done something similar. So we're adding some aspects of that tracking experience. This one, it will continue to iterate on that. So we have what I call our full tracking experience. So that may not be full yet, but at least there will be some deliveries that you'll be able to access the map, and we will have hopefully some notifications for when you receive a delivery. And so that's one feature we're excited about in the native app. Some other features is some more help holding hand on the self-entry validation of tracking numbers. So that's been a big thing where people are unsure of why they didn't receive a reward or did receive a reward. So there'll be some more expectation setting around that. So there was a couple things in the video that you just saw that are not going to be in there. So the merchant icons you might have seen if you're paying attention, those won't be in there yet.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about some of those. I wanted to see, right, if those merchant icons would be there, or what sort of the ETA on those happens to be.
Yeah, we're not going to have that one for this V2 launch. Still be exploring it on what that could look like. But for now, yeah, we'll just say it's not going to be in there right now. And then the balance screen that you saw, it is going to be in there. It's not going to have that really cool dial that Wonder designed for us, but that might come later. But that's the only other thing. Let's see, what else? What are some other cool features we can emphasize? Just generally, the whole onboarding flow there'll be much more hand-holding through all the way from just creating a new user to adding your wallet to KYCing. All that process will be hopefully a much smoother and easy to understand why it's happening. Lots of expectation setting throughout, and there'll be a better tutorial for the general proof of receipt experience as well. So yeah, we're really excited about just that. It's going to feel like there's less friction, more understanding of what's happening in general, and we'll continue to iterate on that, in the long term.
Yeah, the goal is to be the greatest tracking app that you can find objectively. I'm subjective, but we want to not only have this really great confirmation experience and this service, users can monetize their feedback immediately without big data selling it and making money. We put that power into the user's hands, but it's really holistic how we can attack that.
I think that's one thing that so many of us who use the application are excited for is some of that real time, some of that, some of the promise like you've been talking about for quite a long time of, big data doesn't necessarily have this in their hands. And I think that's really exciting for us. Anything else we want to say about version 2 of the application before moving on?
I guess one other thing I can mention is, we have talked about in previous AMAs about the merchant services. And so we are continuing to make efforts on that as well. And hopefully have some really cool documentation and decks around that and showing more of that, like what that looks like for a merchant to onboard soon. But we are. I just want to say we're continuing to make efforts in improving that.
I'd say one disclaimer, none of the icons symbolize any sort of partnership. We use them for reference. So you see Amazon and some other shippers and carriers there. That does not mean we're partnered. It's just a fair disclaimer. And the icons themselves, that's a big library. It's a lot to add and to be able to extract that. And we'll have it eventually part of the tracking experience. And also the brand imprinting themselves into the app, because we really want to, establish that connection between the merchants or the brand and their consumer at the moment of delivery. That's a very powerful moment, the unboxing moment, days after the shopping cart time happens. So that's really good. And we want merchants to be able to brand it themselves and have their own organizational charts and slurp the data however they'd like to. But we want to make it look good in the app for the user too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did want to ask, but you already said, so the different merchant icons we've talked about, they'll be coming soon. They'll be there, but they won't be there initially. And the icons that we saw are not indicative of any particular announcement. That's something I wanted to point out. So if anybody, look, I will tell everyone that one of the benefits of doing these AMAs is I got to see that video a couple of days early, just a couple of days. And JG, you can confirm that, that a lot of people are going to do this because I did it. I was even analyzing the reflections in the screens on the video, like, okay, what's in here? So, right, the icons that you see, yes, they're placeholders. That showcases what the merchant is going to be able to expect in terms of in-app branding for end users. If we could, though, I'd like to transition for a moment, because we can always come back to version 2, which I think is one of the stellar, big, important parts of this AMA here in Q4. But let's talk about rewards for a moment, because summer shipments are ending. The general question that I'd like to ask is what comes next, but let's focus this to liquidity provisioning at first. Those who are on, ZillSwap, who are using the Switcheo product, who are providing liquidity, we've been enjoying the summer shipments. Are there going to be more rewards? What comes next in general in terms of liquidity?
Excellent question. So liquidity providers, rewards, that kind of goes hand in hand with staking. Those are the two staples of DeFi and why a lot of people invest in products. So staking is going live. We can talk about that a little bit after, but in accompaniment with that, we need to also ensure that LPs can get some sort of reward to offset IL, especially when the price rises and the dynamics change. So there will be some sort of reward. We actually have a governance proposal. We're looking to, for any who are familiar with the governance proposal in the past, with export unlocks, where anytime port is claimed from users who have converted their export, there is a corresponding export unlocked. And we've done that, corresponding port unlocked that is to be distributed to holders and liquidity providers. The language in that proposal is a little bit, it's just not very beneficial, because holders, we cannot just distribute rewards to anybody holding the token anymore. We did that in the beginning and it helped and it worked, but at this point there are bad actors holding the token. There are people who are not engaged holding the token, and we want those who are engaged and supporting and engaging to be rewarded. So there will be some LP rewards coming. Those will be announced maybe later towards the end of the year. Staking will go live soon as well.
So looking for liquidity provisioning, or what we call LP, looking maybe some potential announcements late Q4, rolling into Q1 of next year. But you meant, and of course, I want to remind everybody of what you just said. the export redemption matching, as I sometimes call it, but what you were describing as people redeem export for port that is matched and that is then shared with port holders in the pool. That continues, correct? Or that's in the pool and held, isn't it?
I'm not sure I understand. You're talking about the port that is unlocked in correspondence with those that are converted?
Yes.
Yes. So to this point, we have not, the amount that's been converted is just so small. It's just minimal. So it doesn't make sense to distribute those. We've been waiting to get some more traction, and we can issue those when there's a bigger balance, and it is worth the gas to spend to do that. But it hasn't been thus far. And so we're re-examining what that might look like. And I think that we'll put a governance proposal forward, but I think the best way to do it is to just increase LP future to be cross-chain. We're looking at other chains that are going to need rewards. I mean, you can get Swap on ZilSwap. You can get Sushi has onsen programs. There's lots of programs with yield farming tokens, and we don't want port to necessarily be a yield farming token. We don't want to dilute the supply further, but we need to maintain liquidity for those who are trading and transacting. So there's a fine balance. There's a science and art to it. And we're taking our time with that. But I think that as far as just distributing unlocked port from the unlocked or converted export is not making a lot of sense since we progressed. And so we'll put a governance proposal to have that 1 million. There's 1 million designated port for that purpose, and we can put forth a proposal to have that wrapped into an LP reward program that is sustainable for multiple years.
Good. So thank you for clarifying that. And that's why I asked about it. Now, you did mention another DEX or a decentralized exchange, but before we get there, because I know a lot of people want to hear about that, can we dig into the staking concept a little bit further? What details can be shared about the staking that you just mentioned? You know, when are we going to be seeing staking for port? What is staking for port going to look like? What are some of the mechanisms? Could we go through that for a moment?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So staking contracts are done. Henry, our blockchain wizard, has had those done for a number of weeks, and we're just kind of refining and testing. We have a test team that's been interacting with it for starting this week, actually. And it's going really good. We just got to get the wonders designed in the front end implemented to make it look pretty. Henry thinks it looks pretty. I think it looks good, but we want to make it cohesive with the environment and the design system. So we're aiming, that'll be live Q4. We definitely settled on Q4. We're aiming for sooner than later. We're making a real good push to have that line up with V2 as much as possible. If we can get it all out together, that'd be ideal, but they'll be very close to each other.
Yeah, definitely very close.
So potentially some additional LP rewards talked about at the end of Q4 or into Q1. Staking is coming here, we believe, in Q4. But you did mention something that I think a whole bunch of people just want to immediately hear about as soon as possible. You mentioned a couple of other decentralized exchanges. Port traveling across the Zil bridge, an ERC20 token. These are some of the things we've been hearing. What can you say about Port and its nature of potentially becoming a multi-chain token?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we want. We want Port to be attainable and accessible everywhere. I don't care what your favorite blockchain is. There's tribalism within this space. We know it. Everybody has their favorite, and that's fair and fine. We want Port to be your favorite no matter what your favorite blockchain is, and we want it accessible there. So we start with Zilliqa, and now with the bridge, we can move over to Ethereum, and then any other layer 2 that enables us to bridge with, BSC, the Binance Smart Chain. And then there's many other protocols that we're looking at. It'll be very hard to have our back-end smart contract process on multiple chains, because checking the state of any contract against each other, that becomes, you're sharding another database effectively. But we can have fungible tokens, Port, the token itself, on a number of DEXs, chains. You know, you should be able to go find it on your favorite, whether you love Solana or AVAX, Polkadot, any of those major layer 1s. Or layer 2 solutions, anything that's finding success in the space, we want our token there and accessible to those who are using that platform. I think you're muted there. Oh, Sam, we lost audio.
Let's see. Is my audio back?
There you go. Got you.
Okay, my apologies for that. I believe that was on my end, a little bit of buffering issue. But you were talking about the decentralized exchanges, and I believe that will create a couple of liquidity offerings for people who hold the token and like participating in DeFi. But you brought up something that is a very valid point. Package Portal itself, the whole thing isn't getting up and moving across the bridge somewhere else. The transactions are still going to be processed on the Zilliqa blockchain, correct? And we're talking about availability of the token in multiple places so that businesses, so that individual investors, so that anyone who wants the port token can access it more easily. That's correct?
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah. So what, in terms of timeline, what's currently holding us back from taking port and moving it across the bridge right now? What are some of the mechanisms in play? I know, Switchio's involved, Zilliqa's involved. What are some of the mechanisms and a rough timeline about when we can expect some of these features and some of this availability?
Well, I'm not too sure. We're just kind of sitting by, patiently waiting. I put a message out. We just kind of need the documentation. We'll set up our contract on the Ethereum network, and then the Switchio team can link that to their contracts with ZilSwap, and then we're able to port over the supply of port. And then that's it. And then from there, listing the pool or creating the liquidity pools on those other dexes is fairly straightforward. So whenever we get that documentation, we can begin to enact that. It's Friday now, so I don't anticipate it happening over the next day or two, but I'm hoping by Monday we can have what we need on our end to fulfill our obligation and migrate over, because then it's also going to start the process of us being able to list the token and have those discussions on centralized exchanges as well. We're having discussions with different token research firms and funds, and we want to get liquidity not just on dexes but on centralized exchanges. I want it on every network and on every exchange, and that'll be the goal.
And so that would be, just to clarify, that would be, you're hoping by next week you'll have the documentation to begin the process of implementing that. I just want to confirm
Correct.
that.
Yeah, but once we get the documentation, I mean, we should be able to be live same day, depending on the hour. Or some engineers on the East Coast and Switchios and the other side of the planet. So there's time zone issues, but I would say within 24 to 48 hours, we can move fairly quickly. We might get ahead of it. And once we have that, we can say this will be the day and the time, just to give people a fair shake so everybody knows, and there's not insider information of when the pool is created, and people who are outside are not able to act if they want to. So we'll have an announcement when it's time to go live, and I'm hoping for next week.
Excellent. So you've mentioned a couple of the dexes, but you mentioned Uniswap, you mentioned Sushi. Are those the two primary targets up front, or are there certain places that you're going to direct internal resources in terms of creating liquidity pools, or is that something we can or can't know?
We want to go where there's a lot of user activity, where there's a lot of people engaged, and whatever makes sense. If we have voluntary suggestions from the community, we can take a deep look at those and make the moves necessary. But anything that really is going to offer value and accessibility to the token is what we want to provide.
Okay, thank you for that.
And you know what? There was one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure,
There's one thing
yeah.
we got to cover as far as staking. We kind of jumped over it. There's the two things actually. We can talk about some of the details around that. There will be a 7-day lockup and a 10% penalty if you want to unbond early. 7-day unbonding period, you can call it. Zilliqa community is familiar with that. So if you stake, you have to wait 7 days to pull out. If you want to pull out before that, that's fine, but there will be a 10% fee, which will be distributed to everybody else who is in the pool, who stays in the pool.
So you said that unbonding period is 7 days?
Unbonding period will be 7 days, but you can instant withdraw with the 10% penalty.
With the 10% penalty. That's quite competitive in the when we look at bonded tokens, that's quite competitive. Do we have any information on rate of return, or is that variable, or what are we looking at in terms of
the APY? If you look at stakingrewards.com and look at the top tokens there, we're going to be competitive. I don't want to share that just yet. We'll have the numbers very soon. We have the numbers internally, but there will also be a secondary contract. This is actually bred out of the community. It was brought to us by some of the larger token holders who are very engaged, and they said that they would like to have a long-term contract option or staking contract option to demonstrate to the wider population that they're committed long term, and that that will have a higher yield. So what we did was this was the tugboat feature, the secret code tugboat that I had tweeted out a few weeks ago, because these community members are facilitating a way for merchants to come in and out of port without having to buy in. And then we are able to offer them a 90-day free trial without it being necessarily free. It's not just free. Somebody had to put up tokens, and it was our community who came to back us and show, here you go. You have 90 days to try this out, view user scan data. And that's very strong. So that staking contract will be secondary. Users can choose if you want to have a short term and pull out earlier, a little bit less of an APY, or if you want a higher APY and you're there for 90 days, but there will be probably a 25% early unstaked penalty, which again is distributed to everybody else who is staking. So that'll be very good to show token holders, purchasers, just the crypto community at large. We have a very engaged community, and they're here for the long term. They prove it on chain. And then it has off-chain ripple effects as well that's beneficial for the merchant.
I think that's a really important point to make here, and one of the areas I was going to transition to next. So let's stay here because I wanted to talk about the ecosystem, right? The people involved in port in just a moment. But with staking, we have a perfect transition point because you're not only describing that everyone will be able to come in and stake that holds port if they want, a relatively short 7-day unbonding period. We don't know the APY just yet, but expected to be competitive. But there's also this other, as you just described, this other type of staking, as we've seen people come in with larger amounts of port, right, holding sometimes a decent percentage of the overall circulated amount. They'll be able to, or really anybody who wants to, will be able to go into a longer term staking with a higher penalty for instant unbonding, but a longer term staking. And what do you expect that does? Does that increase the ability to perform business with future clients? Does that increase confidence in the token that, there's not this massive amount in circulation? What are some of the benefits of that longer 30-day or 90-day? Which one was it? Was it a 90-day?
3 months, 90 days.
3 months. 3 months. So a 3-month lockup, 90 days. What are some of the benefits of that longer one again?
Everything you just mentioned, just the community having the faith that large holders are not going to be able to just dump tokens. I think that's a fear, but we've engaged with some of the larger token holders, never about what they're doing, only about our product and what we're building. And then when this idea was presented. And so I think that it shows people who have a large investment, a large stake in the package portal platform can demonstrate on chain that they are committed, not just by holding the token, which they've done. They've demonstrated that they support. Many of these people have bought a lot of tokens, like you said. They have more tokens than us, some of them. And so they can demonstrate on chain that they're not going to go instantly sell. And if they do, because price looks good and maybe it goes up and they want to sell, well, they're going to have to pay a high penalty, and everybody else who is still committed long term, they get the reward, up to 25% of whatever that penalty might be. And that can be a hefty sum distributed if somebody wants to back out pretty quickly with a large holding. And then the second thing that it does, again, that enables it's a delegation of maybe a percentage of that supply is set aside and enables us to offer merchants a free 90-day trial that's not actually free. They have to have tokens to view scan data, and the community has provided what's necessary to fulfill that obligation right up front.
I'll just add to that.
That's really excellent. Yeah, Gabe, go ahead.
Well, it's like I love this new staking because I feel like it goes to the kind of ethos that we've been trying to do the whole time with our token, is that our token, is trying to do stuff. It has utility. And so this is just one more way that our token isn't just a way to reap the rewards, which it is, but it's going to actually be doing work for the business itself. And I think that's just dope.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are excited for it. People who have been collecting port, people who have been scanning very, diligently is the word I'm looking for. They're very diligently over time accumulating port. I think this is going to be something that's really well received. We've been talking about some of the new faces, some of the existing faces, and like I just mentioned, longtime port users who have been accumulating port. There are a lot of players involved in the package portal ecosystem now. It seems like we have everybody from scanners to regular holders, like you mentioned, folks who are buying on decentralized exchanges and maybe not going through the KYC process. Well, we have large port holders. Sometimes people call them the whales. And the possibility in a moment, we'll talk about moving in towards even talking about clients. But if we can stop with the large port holders for a moment, there has been some murmuring, some speculation, some talking. I think staking is a really good way to show that these folks are in for the long term, as you just described. But you mentioned earlier in this AMA that Package Portal itself has talked to and worked with some of the larger holders and even average holders. Can you give us some sense on who some of these folks are, without, we don't want to identify anybody, but who some of these folks are in terms of what are their motivations? What are their ambitions? What are their, what are they thinking in terms of, let me hold a lot of port token? Where does that come from?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's hard to know and judge anybody's motives, but I think what we're seeing is people capture the vision, they see what we're building and the potential. And they know that merchants are going to have to buy these tokens, and the data that's being provided by consumers is extremely valuable. So merchants are going to want those tokens, and there's a natural buy pressure there. There's not, there's more of a circular economy with our tokens and having the utility of being required as a perpetual license. So I think that they're seeing that, and they want to hold it for the long term until we are able to onboard as many clients as possible, and they need to begin buying port. And staking enables them to show, again, on chain, how do you support a project? By buying the token and holding it. When that's not enough, you can lock them up and show that not only have I put my money where my mouth is, but now I'm going to lock it up and set aside the key for 90 days. That's massive. And that also provides the onboarding ramp necessary for a merchant who may be major enterprise and they don't want to delegate a private key worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to some employee. So we have now that onboarding ramp that's very easy and frictionless, as frictionless as it can be. And we're working on other ways to even reduce that and sand it down even more fine.
Because you also offer, I believe you were offering a concierge service for potential clients in the past. Is that something that would be going forward, that you'd offer that as well? Or has there been something
you mean
like a concierge service where you would on behalf of them hold their tokens for them? Is that something that's going to happen or no?
That's still something we're looking at from a legal perspective, just custody, being the custodian of a supply for various, we can do it. If we can do it legally, we have the tech.
Technically, we can do it, but the question is, legally, can you?
Exactly, yeah. And so what we've done is we've worked with some of our advisors who are very strategic in the financial space, decades worth of experience, and we're setting up an entity that will be able to help with that. We'll share more details about that in the future, but that will be something that enables enterprise to onboard without having to buy the token itself, with the wallet and the private key, and still has all the market dynamics for port are still at play. And so it's really, really, really very good. We'll save that for a little bit later.
I'll save that for the Q1 AMA. But before we move on to the prospective clients, we were talking about large port holders, and in the past, right? I never want to come across as negative on this, but in the past, there have been some large port holders who may have acted in not the best interest of the community. Do you see any signs like that, or are we looking at an area, a future for Package Portal where with staking and the long-term staking, that really we see a much more leveled off playing field where people's interests are more secure, we can make better and more informed decisions? Are we heading in a positive direction, or are there still some major concerns in terms of large holders?
And I think it's only positive from here. I mean, the issue that we faced with some malicious whales in the past, anybody who's been around for a while, they know the story. There was a guy who was able to accumulate a lot, drive up the price, dump on people. He ran campaigns. It was just really, really bad. And there wasn't much that we could do about it at the time. And he's gone. And some of these new whales who have come in have kind of punched them in the mouth and got rid of them and took over to support and show that they are here, they're supporting, and getting rid of bullies, and traders can trade, do what they want. It's a market, it's dynamic, and it's driven by people who have flaws and issues of their own. But I think what we have is a lot of people coming together with the commonality of trying to see port succeed, get it far, get it accessible, and just, really champion it. That's for lack of a better term, we have champions that are buying the token to shout from the mountaintops how cool our product is. And as founders, there's nothing more that you can ask. That feels really, really good.
So let's talk about the product itself, right? When people are championing the product, they're investing by buying tokens. The clients, is there anybody being onboarded currently? I know that you've mentioned in previous AMAs and publicly that you've run some demos in the past, you've run some attempts, but are we ready to announce any clients yet, or are we looking at more of a general update that's coming, and we need to really hold until V2 is ready?
Yeah, good question. We don't have any clients yet, but I think what we're doing is we're poising with V2. V2 is like a huge leverage point for us. And so we have some targets. Our advisors have some targets that are like ready to go, but kind of waiting for the right moment, especially with the V2 launch. So we're being strategic with how much we're pushing the gas, I think is a good way to describe it. And it's poised and ready to go once V2 launches. And so, part of V2 is the native app, like we've described, these crypto tools like we've described in Q4. Some other things that we're hoping to launch as part of kind of this whole suite of V2 is more transparency as well. So our product roadmap, for example, we're hoping to have some kind of public version of that. And I think all of these things together, so transparency, the product itself, will be so much leverage for advisors and all of our business development efforts. And so when we're ready, then those kind of target clients that we're really excited about, we'll push the gas.
So for any businesses who are considering becoming clients, what is your communication with them right now? What would you tell somebody who's looking to onboard? What's sort of the flow that you give them at the moment?
That's good. I was just going to add to that in answering that question is that we have some documentation that we're working on to give them so they can know, okay, this is what's required. This is what I get. This is how we get started. And so that's really good. We do have a couple of commitments. We talked in the past about a CBD firm or CBD company who does a lot of shipping, and they've confirmed that we're moving forward with the pilot program. So we're working on the specs on that. We can announce some of the details of that later. But they're doing, a decent amount of volume, 25,000 shipments a month, which is good. And then they have a larger company that runs this CBD portion, I guess, a company within the portfolio of companies. And so we can potentially access more of those. In addition to some of the other ones like Gabe mentioned, we have really, really key and strategic players, partner candidates who like us, who have they've been briefed, and we've had high-level discussions from our advisors, but we've been, like he said, just biding our time and trying to get closer to the launch of V2 so that we can put it in their hands, because it's much easier to sell. Just say, hey, go download the app and start earning. And then when you want your customers to come and do the same, let us know.
Yeah, and to add to that, the kind of the connection that our advisors have with these key strategic partners is like really, really good. Like they have really good network and really good connections. So just to kind of give confidence around that, they have really good access to some of these potential clients.
Let's talk for a moment about some of the value that Package Portal offers to these clients, these upcoming and potential clients, whether they're in pilot programs or whether they'll be onboarded in the future. Maybe something we'll talk about in Q1, Q2 timeframe, whatever your timeframe is. Not announcing anything. I'm saying whenever that's available. What type of value add are you offering for these clients? I believe we even have a visual if you want to segue into it. But what's some of the information that they can look to get and receive from Package Portal as a part of buying some tokens and getting access to data?
Yeah, so I kind of see our product offering for them as like in two parts. One part is this kind of the core proof of receipt logistics feedback, right? So understanding the quality of how their physical products are being delivered. And that, like JG said earlier in the conversation, we really love that physical touch point is so important and powerful. And there's not really a lot that happens around that currently in e-commerce. And so we think there's such an opportunity with that physical touch point. So that first opportunity is, just getting that, how's the quality of delivery for us, and getting that feedback directly. And then, so part of that is, the location of proof of receipts, some kind of rating like it's currently in the app, and being able to aggregate that data. So a merchant being able to like analyze that data across different regions, cities, and getting that visibility, of that transparency of their physical product. There's so little transparency from when it leaves their warehouse to when it, even when the customer receives it in general in the industry. So little visibility for merchants. And so this is just like one way we're kind of starting that journey of creating visibility in that package's life cycle. And it's we think the most powerful, right? Because it's the customer who already showed intent to buy from this merchant, getting that physical product. So that's kind of one part. The second part is that what I think of as the loyalty part of our product. So an opportunity with that touch point is, hey, if this was delivered in a quality way and the product is quality, can we get that customer to be interested in more? They already showed interest, so let's keep going with that. And we think we can be an important part of that with our incentive model and other value, all the value props that we have already described.
I think many businesses at that go, excellent. That sounds really great.
Yeah.
I would like to, can we put the visual up on screen and you gentlemen walk me through it a little bit? Is that something you'd like to do?
So, yeah, then to just preface it, currently, anybody in the industry who is trying to get a delivery confirmation, it comes in the form of a signature, which is just a scribble that's usually illegible on a COVID-contaminated device, potentially. And, there's not a lot of value there. How is that delivered?
I promise I signed my real name. Wink, wink.
Yeah. G.I. Joe can sign your package. But so we go beyond that. And this is $5 or $6 price point for that scribble.
Yeah.
So, first of all, if we did that and that alone and offered it for a few pennies, then that's global macro impact, right? If we already have added more robust data points there, and the ability to enable merchants to customize the data points that they want to see, that's just huge. If a food packing company can come in and say, I don't care about damage, did the ice melt? Was the food spoiled? How long did it sit on your porch, if you could guess? Those kind of things, and merchants can customize that for pennies, still for pennies. Instead of just an illegible scribble, they get all of that, and it's visually represented on the screen. If Sam has got it, yeah, you want to throw that up there, Sam?
Yeah, let's go ahead and put that on screen.
Yeah, what you'll be looking at is just a screenshot of the customer dashboard. So a merchant who signs on with us, they can aggregate their data in ways like this. If you look at the top left, that's just a heat map of scans in Indonesia. Down bottom middle, that's all UPS scans in North America during a particular time. Left bottom is only negative ratings in the Chicago area during a particular time. And then bottom right, you see Netherlands. That's one particular carrier, Post NL, one that gave us trouble because of the city codes, the zip codes, the postal codes. And that's all that carrier in the Netherlands. And so many ways that you can aggregate. This is just a few. We can have charts. Merchants can really come in and see all of the feedback, know where carriers might be underperforming, where they may be a good value. And maybe they need to spend a little bit more for better service in this particular area. Lots of different things that they can glean from analyzing this data.
I don't expect that everyone has worked in shipping or logistics or delivery, but having worked with logistics some, I have to admit, and I'm being very serious here, when I see that graphic and I hear you talking about it and I look, because I've seen that image maybe 5 minutes before we started today, but I didn't have context. I hadn't looked it over. So as I saw you describing it, I literally got chills because of the value of that information. When you mentioned, here are the negative scans in the Chicago area, we can identify, were those on a similar truck, were they on a similar route, were they a similar type of product? The correlation ability with this information You talk about going beyond a simple signature. I think that value proposition is very clear for anybody running a business who ships product out, for anybody running a delivery business who is in charge of getting items from point A to point B. So I don't want to object too much or inject too much of my own, but I have to admit I got chills in a positive way when I see that and when I saw that and heard you talking about it. You mentioned some pilot. I want to get to community questions as quickly as possible here, but a few more follow-ups if you don't mind. You mentioned some pilot programs. Is there anything you can talk about pilot programs? And I have to admit, I also have a production note here about case studies, but I'm not sure what case studies you've been working on. So I'm going to lump these together and talk about any type of pilot programs, any type of case studies you've been developing, anything we can know about those, of how this data is getting materialized in the real world right now.
I think in Q1 we can share some of those details after we've got some other things in place. We don't want to get too out in front of that. But as we said before, we've got the CBD company and a couple of others who are really trying to learn and see demonstrated this data. And then that would be the case study and the pilot program that we can also use in other meetings and calls when we have sales meetings with lots of other companies. But no details.
Anything, as we go on, anything you can talk about your upcoming marketing efforts to get to that point?
Yeah, we'll have a decent marketing push with the launch of V2. We're paying some money, a decent amount of money, but we're being very effective and strategic. And we have a marketing agency who's working with us. We're going to do a lot of out-of-home marketing, not imprints or impressions on some website that's a dime a dozen and cost about the same. We want to do out of home, New York Times Square or a city bus or tram or that sort of thing, in concentrated locations. We have a heavy user base, as you saw, in the Netherlands and also in Europe. We didn't show any graphics there, but London and all of the EU, really, we have lots of users there. So we're looking at some out of home there, but also that's for user acquisition. And I think in our last AMA, we talked about how we would pursue each sector, not just users, but clients. And so we've got some marketing dollars going to strategic newsletters and different platforms that target a different readership. Those who are, C-level executives and venture capitalists and tech users and blockchain, crypto advocates and that sort of thing. So we should see some fruit coming out of that over the rest of the year.
I love how you phrase that, and honestly, it gives me a lot of confidence. Me personally, I won't speak for anybody else, but the fact that I work as a marketing instructor, and when I hear somebody who puts it like that, I'm like, yeah, digital advertising has its purposes. But the way you put it, and I won't rephrase it, but the way you put it gave me a good chuckle, because it gives me confidence that you understand when it should be used, how it should be used, where its purpose is, and what its purpose is not. So it sounds, personally, from just my point of view, it sounds like you have a good grasp on that, and I can't wait to see what more is there. Hint, hint, wink, wink, guys. Give me a call after this when we're off air, so I can know a little bit more about it. I really am interested. Gentlemen, anything else that we maybe failed to cover, or that I failed to ask about before we move into community questions here? I want to make sure we have at least a good 10 to 12 minutes for community questions.
Yeah, I want to be able to answer any community questions as well. There's nothing I can think of. We covered a good amount. I mean, staking is going to be incredible, very competitive APYs. You have two options: long-term, short-term. Liquidity rewards will continue in some capacity in the future, but it will not be, it will not be a selling point. Liquidity rewards have their place. We don't want to dilute, but we want to sustain. V2 is going to be very, 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 very cool. And incredibly, extravagantly awesome. Let's get to some community questions and see what they want to know that we might have skipped out.
Let's do it. I'm excited. For those of you who have been watching, remember, you can put your comments live right on YouTube. Anywhere you're watching the live stream, it all gets aggregated back to us. And if you're on Twitter, you can use the hashtag PortAMA. For those who have been reviewing, Danish and Sam, anything while we were talking that we want to put as a priority, or should I just start going through some of what I see right now? I'm not hearing anything from the control room. So what I'm going to do is just start jumping into some of them right now. One of the questions about marketing that just came through from Joseph Lim is asking, I see one coming up on screen in just a moment, but let me get this one in from Joseph first. He's asking about the marketing and whether it's going to be focused on mass adoption. And I imagine there's other parts of that as opposed to client adoption, crypto. Is the advertising campaign, or one of them at least, coming up for mass adoption?
That's a good question. And it's probably helpful to get some clarity. So this initial sprint that we're doing in marketing is going to be for crypto enthusiasts. We think it's not native to Zilliqa. We should qualify that. So we have a lot of the Zilliqa community is aware of us. We performed well, but we need to expand outside of that ecosystem. And so our marketing efforts from the user side is going to be to crypto users, people who are already familiar with how to, create and secure a wallet and upload and do that sort of thing. And then in the summer, sometime Q2, Q3 is when we're going to have a more heavy focused push on non-crypto native users, noobs, somebody that knows nothing. And if you saw in the trailer for the app, we have some educational outlays there where we can add lots of support right there in the app for new users to know how do I get started, how do I secure a wallet, how do I trade, transact, because if we do begin to really onboard non-crypto native people and we're giving them crypto, we want to establish some loyalty there. We're a loyalty campaign offering, but we want loyalty to our platform as well. And if we can be a subject matter expert and users can come to know of crypto and trust us within that space, then that's a win. And we can have ambassadors and loyal community members for the long duration.
Excellent. Thank you. Sam, can we get the one that was up on screen just a few moments ago back?
I did see Abhishek's post about the 90 days. He's a really good community member, longtime guy, very smart fella and talented, creative too. You can check out his Twitter for a report he did on Port and Package Portal. I think that 90 days is a decent amount of time for a company, enterprise, to get sample data. If you go too short, they don't have enough. If you go too long, you're giving them too much for free. So 1 quarter for a free trial is a decent and fair time, I believe.
What about that second part? Will there be an agreement of buying Port for their membership fee after the trial ends? I assume we could interpret this in a couple of different ways, not only the direct way of, again, related to the concierge question I asked before, are they buying the Port that is being, donated, if you will, through the staking? What's sort of the onboarding when somebody says, you know what, I've liked this free trial, let's go for it. What does that Port acquisition look like for them?
Well, the 90 days that's delegated by the community within the staking contract, that gives them time to go acquire their own Port. If they do not, by the time 90 days is up, they don't get to see any more data.
What can we as users in Amsterdam do to help? That's very specific, but for Mailman A, what can we do as users in Amsterdam?
It's a good question. If you reach out to Sam, he's based in the Netherlands, and we've got a number of admins over there, really smart and talented guys. And we're gonna have a marketing push coming up there. We've got some out-of-home things we're working on, and maybe you can help with that. There's also some sort of a game we'd like to play, like a real world game, barring any COVID restrictions or anything else. And the Netherlands is one of the locations we've chosen to do so. So reach out to Sam, Zil Billionaire on Telegram, or you can just hit us on our Twitter and we'll link him in.
And just keep being a daily active user on the app. I mean, that's a super basic way to keep our numbers looking good.
Mm-hmm. And to that point, I don't know if you saw, but in the app, there's going to be multiple features that encourages more daily active use. Everybody doesn't get a package every day. Right. I don't, but we want people to use the app all the time, not just once every couple of weeks or so. So we've got some things that we're building in there, an off-chain reward system that can be converted and earned in different ways. A referral program will be coming, like affiliates and lots of different things there. I hope that answered the question.
I think so, and I think that gives a lot of exciting stuff for the future. Jimmy Eats Brains here is asking, or saying that he has a problem receiving export when packages are sent to either work or parents' house. And I know I've personally had something like this happen. when there's a mismatch between the address. Maybe I have something shipped to a relative's house or something like that. Is there, and here's a follow-up question, is there a way for people like me to participate in the app? Of course, if you're of legal age and in the right jurisdiction, what can somebody do about this type of mismatch if maybe they have multiple mailing addresses or something like this causes them to not receive their export?
Yeah, we're hoping to have a better way to see some of those reasons why you didn't receive in the new app. But we're going to have to continue to iterate also on ways to allow for multi-location. We've got some ideas, but I would say, if you're trying to scan and earn, just focus on stuff that the basic. You ordered it and it comes to your house. Focus on that for now, and we'll continue to iterate and improve other ways that you can earn for these other use cases.
This question was brought up by one of our design guys because he's got 3 locations and he gets packages delivered all the time. And currently we don't lock you in based off of your address. Users haven't even uploaded their address. So if you're not getting tokens, it could be that the GPS is just way off. If you're at a work location instead of your home location and you scan there, but the address for the package is in Amsterdam and you're in some other country, then you're not going to get the token. So be sure that you're in the right location, or be sure that the package is not addressed very, very far. If it's addressed to your home, but you got it at work, you might not get the package, and so you can just scan it at home.
That's really helpful because I have picked up a package somewhere, driven quite a significant distance, scanned it, and had some issues with it. So that is a really interesting point.
Yeah.
Curtis7 asking on screen, are you going to be doing any interviews, maybe in larger crypto space, the Ethereum space, to get Port better known over in that realm on Ethereum or other blockchains?
Definitely, yeah. With V2 coming out, we hope to be more public. We said it before, and it's been weeks and months in between there, but now that we're on the cusp of its release, Gabe and I mean, we're together all the time, at least probably once a week. We're here at the office working, and we can do maybe not quite as frequent as you and Amrit once a week. That's a hard commitment, especially going into the holidays and in a big spring with our launch. But we want to be very visible in public and answer questions. And, even if I'm just sitting on my couch and I can get on Twitter Spaces and just have a conversation, we'll do things like that because we want to stay engaged. I think it's helpful because, we love and we're always optimistic and excited. And it's just good to be in front of the community and let that rub off.
Yeah. And I'll give you some production tips behind the scenes on how you can make it look like. Anyway, I'll save that. A couple of really good questions here. There's a question from Zabir. He says, is there anything you can do for Bangladesh? Talks about not having a lot of carriers, not a lot of courier options there. For a lot of areas around the globe that want to participate and aren't able to, or for some reason have low adoption, I know you've had a large focus on developing nations, emerging markets. What can Package Portal do to help some of those areas, and what can they do to get involved while, maybe there's not, we've talked in the past about certain delivery companies that they're not delivering to an address, they're delivering via other ways. How is that process going along, and how can it relate to someone living in Bangladesh or any other area that wants to get more active?
Good question. Yeah, we're working the ability for users to link different accounts that they might have, whether it's their email or some other account, and then authorize themselves within the app so that as they get tracking number notifications, it just populates right into the app. That could be something that bypasses whatever restrictions or whatever flags are hitting that particular carrier. We'd have to look a little bit more closely at what carriers are operating in Bangladesh that we might not support. We support over 750 currently, but that's not enough. There's probably close to 1,100 in the world, and that's a tall order because everybody has different formats, and we learned that the hard way. I mean, we knew that there were dynamic formats, but golly, let me tell you, this is crazy. Some of them will be just 6 numbers, and it could be all letters. It's very difficult. But we're working to do that. And then one of the tools that will help that process is allowing users to sync up their accounts so that tracking numbers auto-populate and they don't have to enter them themselves or enter them wrongly, and that sort of thing.
I think this kind of falls into that category of like kind of edge cases around the, like where look at multiple locations or things like that. And so we'll just have to iterate on some of those edge cases. So I mean, I appreciate the sentiment of just wanting to support. Maybe we can just think about this one a little more though, and think of some ideas.
Yeah, well, we're hitting the hour mark. Could you stick around for maybe about 2 or 3 more minutes just for a couple more questions? Because there seem to be some really good ones coming in that I'd like to address. One is on the screen currently or recently that talks about large token holders and says many investors just focus on the price of the token in the short term, right? So if we have traders or short-term traders, which of course we're not trying to say, I mean, it's a market. People can use whatever strategy they want. But the question is, can you tell us the motivation and benefits for investors of the port token long term? So for the folks that you've networked with, whether they're small holders that have 5 tokens that they've worked very hard to get, or there's somebody who has 500,000, of the people you've met, what's the general sentiment regarding people's motivation, their thoughts about port, and how they seem to be connecting with the project?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's different sects of who you can make up within that community. If you're talking about just traders, they're basing their movements off of speculation. If you have somebody who's in the e-commerce space, they may be banking off the fact that merchants are going to have to buy these tokens and they can buy them first for a little bit less potentially. And then there's all sorts of different variables at play there. I think what we try to tell people is I mean, we cannot give financial advice. We've never told anybody to go out and buy the token. You can scan and you can earn them. And so that's our advice. If you want to buy the token, or let's say you earn the token and rather than converting it out and leaving the ecosystem, you want to keep it in the ecosystem. And what is the incentive for keeping it within the ecosystem? And I think that we've got a number of incentives there. With staking, it will be as competitive as what you'll see in the top 10 protocols that are allowing staking. And it's got utility. It's a US-based company and it's got utility, and there's a market group that needs to own it. Whereas other tokens, if it does not have utility, the meme tokens, nobody needs it. It's just people who want it and then people who buy it higher later. There's nothing supporting it. We have utility, and there's a group, a very influential group, merchants, global, who needs to own it. And so let that be your driving factor. Just, you want to get something before the world does. I think preeminence could be your motivation.
I think we've addressed that in every AMA now. That, remember, one thing that we have to keep in our minds is that you have never said, go out and buy this token. And also, you've never set a valuation for that token. It's always been the market that set the valuation for the token by design from the beginning, with the exception of the soft peg to $1 in the very, very early days. It was known how long that was going to last in terms of dollar match. So a couple of final questions here just to wrap up. Somebody mentioned, so we can expect a decentralized exchange next week. I can go ahead and cover that one for you. No, not necessarily. Package Portal is hoping to have the information to be able to work with the bridge as soon as next week. So if there's anything else you all want to add to that, but I want to switch it over to someone else asking. So the answer to the DEX is no, not particularly next week. That's about information exchange. But how many centralized exchanges are you thinking Port may be available on in the near term?
In the near term, it's harder to answer. In the long term, all of them. In the near term, the ones that we can connect with, and we have some connections already. We had a call yesterday with a very strategic and key player in the entire crypto space, and they do a lot of research that is well received by many other players, and they have connections with exchanges, both US and foreign. And so, those talks will be ongoing. We have to have some follow-up, but they like us, and they can help facilitate us getting listed on other spots. We'll do the work ourselves. I've had tabs open for a number of different exchanges for months now because we thought the bridge was going live in the summer. The delay has actually helped because we were able to push out and get V2 ready. So there's no grudges. We're happy if things go the way they go. Que sera, sera, but we are now ready. And as soon as we have the ERC contract in place, we can begin to funnel some supply over there and then engage with those centralized exchanges.
Excellent. So for those of you who are saying you're not receiving an export, contact the support team. I would say that I've I've had to personally use it a few times. The team is great. I would try that. Last question from Adrian Finn. It says, "Hey JG, any package portal jobs going? Top US firm to work with, exciting times." I think this is a question that more people want to know about than you may realize. Are there any package portal jobs or in the future that you may be looking to staff up?
Yeah, I mean, we are exploring some, at least some software engineer consulting options for now. But I think it's similar to what we're talking about with the merchants. I think we're waiting to kind of scale the team too much, or until we kind of get V2 out and get a lot of attention. And but we've already been talking about what that looks like, and how to structure that, and when to push the gas on that, and that stuff like that. So we're ready. We're almost ready.
Yeah. Software engineers, we need more of them. These guys are great, but they built a lot, and now it needs to be maintained.
Yeah.
And we have a lot more features to come. We want to get drivers involved with the app, and that's a whole separate app that we need to build up. So there's lots to do there. Software engineers, and then product people. I got too much to do. I need less, so I can focus on some other things. So we will be hiring some folks. We're looking at potentially doing a funding round in H1 of next year. We've had talks with 5 or 6 venture capitalist firms, traditional, not crypto, looking for token purchases, but looking for equity in the company itself. And, we're making good relationships and having good positive discussions, but we don't want to take any money yet until we don't need it, but we can use it. We can leverage it to build up more of a strong team who can ship code faster, maintain everything. And, that'll be the trajectory. But for now, we want to get V2 out, push through the end of the year. The web app, we didn't even discuss the web app. That's coming. That's coming on the heels of V2 launch as well. And then that will be what enables you to stake your port. Also, claim your export. So rather than us just shipping you export, you can go in and claim and get 3, 4, 7, however many you stack up, and lots of different functionality there. So we're going to need more people, but we're looking at Q1, Q2.
Super excited about all the stuff you put right there at the end as well, because now I want to go research more of this. But for those of you who are left wanting more, our hour plus just a little bit is up. I want to say thank you so much, JG and Gabe, for joining here, for running this AMA. Thank you for inviting me. Also, a big thanks to Sam for running all of this behind the scenes. He's been our director, Zill Billionaire, many of you know on Twitter and on Telegram. Moderator on YouTube, Danish, thank you so much for moderating. I appreciate it very much. Again, my name is Chase Raz. This is the Package Portal AMA for Q4 2021. And JG and Gabe, I'll hand it over to you for any final words, but then we'll wrap.
You got anything else? I just want to say thank you. You and Sam, you guys don't know who are watching. I hit these guys like 2 days ago, said let's do an AMA, and then they got it done. It was less than 48 hours, I think, maybe 49. But thank you for being, always so nimble and agile and such a great host. Sam, man, you're a rock, bro. We appreciate you holding it down. You need to get some rest tonight. I know it's getting late over there. Everybody watching, thank you. Community, we love the support that you've given. I know we had some rough months back when we were being attacked by, nefarious folks, and it was difficult to get communications out and to get tokens out. We're working to fix that up. If you KYC, you will get all of your backlogged credits. You'll be added to the queue. It may take a week or 2, but we're working to clean that up. You should also go and complete your KYC soon, like this weekend, if you've not done it, because we're going to close that up. And any back credits that you might have, you're going to just have to forfeit, because we got to get the new database implemented and move forward. So go and do that. Otherwise, thank you. I'll let Gabe close us out.
I was going to say the same thing. Thank you so much for everyone, on the AMA helping with this, and all of our supporters. And thank you to our team. Ben and here, you guys are killing it, working your tails off, making some amazing stuff. And to Wonder, design's amazing. Super excited for B2.
Yeah. So join the Package Portal Telegram group at Package Portal on Twitter. If you need me for any reason, I'm at Chase Raz on Twitter. I forgot my own Twitter handle. We don't have to have the questions stop here. I will forward the ones to Package Portal directly to them. I'm not inside Package Portal. I'm just here hosting. But thank you all. Thank you, everybody watching. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap. Sam, you can kick us offline and boot us from the internet. Take care, everybody.
All right,
Okay.
see you.